The wedding guests fell silent the moment Syra stepped out of the old rusted car and saw the man she was being forced to marry standing under the harsh afternoon sunlight, holding the tiny hand of a little girl in a faded yellow dress. The child looked no older than 5, and the man beside her wore a simple white shirt with worn sleeves and shoes that looked repaired more than once. Whispers spread through the courtyard like wildfire. Some mocked quietly. Others openly pitied her. Her relatives lowered their eyes in embarrassment while her stepmother stood proudly, satisfied that she had finally gotten rid of the burden she had always called the unlucky girl. But what nobody knew was that the quiet single father standing there with humble eyes and tired hands was hiding a truth powerful enough to shock everyone who had ever humiliated him. If you believe kindness and second chances can change lives, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Lifeline Vibes. Your support helps bring more emotional stories like this to people around the world. The sun burned brightly across the crowded neighborhood that afternoon, but inside Syra's heart, everything felt cold and broken. Just 3 days earlier, she had discovered that the man she loved had betrayed her and secretly gotten engaged to a wealthy businesswoman. Before she could even recover from the heartbreak, her stepmother pushed her into this marriage, claiming it was the only way to protect the family's reputation after gossip about her failed relationship spread through the city. Syra's father had once been a kind schoolteacher, but after suffering a stroke years earlier, he became weak and silent, unable to defend his daughter anymore. Her stepmother ruled the house with cruelty hidden behind fake smiles, constantly reminding Syra that beauty meant nothing without money and status. The groom's name was Xavier. Most people knew him only as a struggling mechanic who worked in a small repair garage outside town. Rumors followed him everywhere. Some said his wife had died in poverty. Others claimed she abandoned him because he could never provide a better life. Few people cared about the truth. Society had already judged him. To them, he was simply a poor widower with a child and no future. Syra stood through the ceremony like a lifeless shadow. Every prayer felt heavier than the last. She avoided looking at Xavier because she feared seeing pity in his eyes. But something strange happened when the ceremony ended. Instead of acting possessive or proud like most husbands in arranged marriages, Xavier quietly asked if she was tired and gently offered her water before making sure his daughter, Ira, had eaten lunch. There was no arrogance in him. No cruelty. Only calmness and restraint. The drive to his house shocked Syra even more. She expected a broken shack or cramped apartment, but instead, they arrived at a modest yet peaceful countryside home surrounded by green trees and flowers blooming beneath the daylight. It was simple but clean, filled with warmth she had not felt in years. The walls carried children's drawings, family photographs, and shelves stacked with books. Ira excitedly showed Syra her small room painted with hand-drawn stars. The little girl's innocence slowly melted some invisible fear inside her. Still, the pain in Syra's heart refused to disappear. At night, she cried quietly while staring through the window at the moonlit fields outside. She believed her dreams had died. She had once wanted to become a fashion designer and open her own boutique someday, but life had buried those hopes beneath betrayal and sacrifice. Days turned into weeks. Xavier never forced conversations. He never demanded affection. He treated Syra with patience so gentle that it confused her. Every morning before sunrise, he left for work after preparing breakfast for Ira. Sometimes Syra secretly watched him fixing old bicycles for neighborhood children free of charge or helping elderly neighbors repair broken doors without asking for payment. The town viewed him as poor because he never displayed wealth, but there was dignity in everything he did. One afternoon, while cleaning storage boxes, Syra accidentally found stacks of official documents hidden inside a locked cabinet left slightly open. Her hands froze when she noticed the logos of multinational companies and luxury hotels across different countries. There were business contracts worth millions, property ownership papers, and photographs of Xavier standing beside influential world leaders and investors. At first she thought the papers belonged to someone else, but every signature carried his name. Her heart pounded violently. Nothing made sense. That evening, she finally confronted him. The sunset poured golden light through the kitchen window as she placed the documents on the table with trembling hands. Xavier stared silently for several moments before closing his eyes like a man exhausted from hiding too long. The truth he revealed changed everything. Years earlier, Xavier had built one of the largest technology and real estate empires in the country. His success came from relentless work after growing up in extreme poverty. But while the world admired his wealth, his wife suffered quietly from loneliness and depression. She died during childbirth complications after doctors failed to save her in time. The tragedy shattered him completely. He disappeared from public life, handed daily operations to trusted executives, and chose to live anonymously with his daughter far from greedy relatives and fake friendships. He no longer trusted people who valued money more than humanity. Over time, he disguised himself as an ordinary mechanic because it allowed him to see people's true hearts. Syra sat speechless as tears filled her eyes. Suddenly every moment replayed differently in her mind. The kindness. The humility. The patience. Xavier had never cared about status. He simply wanted peace for his daughter and honesty in his life. But the biggest shock came when he confessed why he agreed to marry her. Months earlier, he had overheard Syra defending an elderly street vendor from wealthy teenagers mocking his poverty. While everyone else ignored the old man, Syra bought all his remaining flowers and walked him safely home in the rain. Xavier never forgot the compassion in her eyes. When he later learned about her family situation and forced marriage pressure, he quietly offered the proposal through distant relatives, believing she deserved protection from the cruelty surrounding her. For the first time in years, Syra felt seen not for beauty, status, or usefulness, but for her heart. Their relationship slowly transformed under the bright rhythm of everyday life. Daytime walks through the countryside became moments of healing. Ira began calling Syra her sunshine mother because the house felt happier whenever she smiled. Together they baked cakes in the afternoons, planted flowers near the porch, and watched golden sunsets paint the sky with peace Syra never imagined possible. Meanwhile, outside their peaceful world, greed was growing. News eventually leaked that the missing billionaire businessman Xavier Halim had been living secretly in the countryside. The media exploded with headlines. Luxury cars began appearing outside their home. Former business partners returned pretending loyalty. Distant relatives suddenly claimed emotional connections. Even Syra's stepmother shamelessly arrived demanding expensive gifts and public recognition. But the cruelest return came from Syra's former lover, Raheel. After discovering her husband's true identity, Raheel tried desperately to win Syra back. He sent flowers, gifts, and emotional letters claiming he had made a mistake. One afternoon, he even appeared outside a charity event where Syra accompanied Xavier. In front of reporters, he attempted to embarrass her by suggesting she married for money after all. The crowd waited for humiliation. Instead, Syra calmly looked into the cameras and said something nobody expected. She said the richest man alive was not the one with the biggest fortune but the one who protected broken people without asking for anything in return. She said Xavier entered her life when she had nothing left, and unlike others, he never tried to buy her heart. He earned it through kindness. The reporters fell silent. For the first time, Xavier looked at her with visible emotion in his eyes. That night, beneath warm lantern lights in their garden, he finally admitted he had fallen in love with her long before she knew who he truly was. Not because she was beautiful, but because she carried softness in a world becoming colder every day. Months later, Syra reopened her abandoned dream and launched her own fashion studio with Xavier's support. But unlike luxury brands built only for profit, her company trained struggling single mothers and widows, giving them jobs, dignity, and independence. Women who had once been invisible to society suddenly found hope again. The story of the billionaire mechanic and the woman forced into marriage spread across the country. Yet behind the headlines and public fascination remained something far more powerful, a family built not on wealth, but healing. One bright afternoon, Syra visited her old neighborhood after years away. Children played under the same dusty streets where she once cried alone. She stopped outside her father's former home and saw the windows that once held so much sadness. Her stepmother, now abandoned by the same relatives she once tried to impress, looked older and broken. For a moment, silence hung heavily between them. Then Syra quietly handed her groceries and medicine before walking away. Not because the woman deserved forgiveness, but because Syra refused to become cruel like those who hurt her. That evening, while the orange sunset stretched across the sky, Syra sat beside Xavier and Ira in the garden as soft wind carried the scent of jasmine through the air. Ira rested asleep in her lap while Xavier gently held her hand. There was no need for grand speeches anymore. The peace around them said everything. Sometimes life destroys your plans only to lead you toward the people who heal your soul. Sometimes the person the world calls worthless is carrying the purest heart of all. And sometimes love arrives quietly, dressed not in luxury, but in humility, patience, and sacrifice. Before we end this emotional journey, comment, "True love needs kindness," if this story touched your heart and made you believe in second chances again. As the stars slowly appeared above their peaceful home, Syra realized something that changed her forever. She had entered the marriage believing she was sacrificing her future for survival. But in reality, she had unknowingly stepped into the life she was always meant to find, a life where she was valued, protected, respected, and truly loved. And for the first time since childhood, she no longer feared tomorrow. If this story moved you emotionally, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Lifeline Vibes. Your support helps these heartfelt stories reach people who may need hope today.